You wouldn't notice him in a crowd. He's not flashy, doesn't broadcast his lifestyle, doesn't post about his freedom on social media. But if you pay close attention, if you watch how he moves through the world, you'll see something remarkable. The man who never married and built his life intentionally lives with a richness that has nothing to do with what most people recognize as wealth. He wakes up in silence, makes decisions in silence, enjoys pleasures in silence, and goes to sleep in silence, answerable to absolutely no one. While married men are grinding through another day of obligations and compromises, this man is experiencing a quality of life so superior that he's learned not to mention it, because the contrast makes others uncomfortable. Schopenhauer understood something that modern society desperately tries to hide. The man who escapes the biological trap of reproduction and family obligation doesn't just survive. He thrives in ways that make conventional success look like elaborate poverty. I'm about to show you what this silent kingdom actually looks like, why these men keep it quiet, and how the life they've built contradicts everything you've been told about what men need to be happy. The silence itself is the first luxury most people will never understand. Not the absence of noise, though that's part of it. The absence of demands. The unmarried man's home is a sanctuary of his own creation. When he walks through his door, nobody needs anything from him. There are no questions about his day that he's obligated to answer. No emotional labor waiting to be performed. No conflicts that require his attention. No household dramas that demand his involvement. He can speak if he wants to, or he can exist in complete quiet for hours or days. This level of peace is so foreign to married men that when they experience even a taste of it during business trips or rare moments alone, they feel almost guilty for how much they enjoy it. The physical space reflects this entirely. Every object in the unmarried man's home is there because he chose it, wants it, uses it. There's no compromise furniture that nobody really likes, but everyone could tolerate. No decorative items that he finds ugly but his wife insists on. No children's chaos spreading through every room. No bathroom products covering every surface. No constant negotiation about how space should be used or organized. His home is curated, intentional, and completely aligned with his aesthetic and functional preferences. He walks into perfectly maintained environments that restore rather than deplete his energy. This isn't selfishness. This is living in harmony with your own preferences, instead of constant friction with others' different tastes. Schopenhauer lived this way deliberately, creating environments conducive to philosophical thought, rather than family harmony. His home in Frankfurt was precisely organized to support his intellectual work, with no compromises made for anyone else's needs or preferences. He recognized that environment profoundly affects consciousness, and that controlling your environment is essential to controlling the quality of your mental life. The unmarried man who understands this principle lives in spaces that elevate rather than exhaust him. Every room serves his purposes. Every detail reflects his choices. This environmental sovereignty is invisible wealth that compounds daily. The morning routine of the never-married man reveals the depth of this different existence. He wakes naturally, without alarms if his schedule allows, or to an alarm set according to his own needs and preferences. The first hour of his day belongs entirely to him. Coffee prepared exactly as he likes it. Breakfast or no breakfast based on his preference. Time to read, think, exercise, meditate, whatever serves him that morning. There's no rushing to get children ready, no managing a stressed wife's morning mood, no coordinating schedules or handling breakfast chaos. His morning sets a tone of calm competence that carries through the entire day. Most married men start every day already behind, already stressed, already depleted before they've even left the house. The financial reality is where the kingdom becomes most obvious, though he rarely discusses it. The never-married man with even a modest income lives like aristocracy compared to married peers earning twice as much. His expenses are his own. His rent or mortgage covers space designed for one, not a family. His food budget feeds him, not 4 people. His entertainment, travel, hobbies, all of it serves his preferences without the massive overhead that families require. A married man earning $100,000 supporting a family of 4 has less discretionary income than an unmarried man earning $50,000 supporting only himself. This mathematical reality means the unmarried man accumulates wealth faster, enjoys better quality of life, and builds financial security while married peers are perpetually struggling despite higher incomes. Drop your city in the comments. I want to know where in the world people understand this silent truth about how life can actually be lived. The social dimension of this kingdom operates on different principles than most people recognize. The never-married man curates his social life with complete intentionality. Every friendship, every social commitment, every gathering he attends is something he's chosen because it adds value to his life. He's not maintaining relationships with people he doesn't particularly like because they're his wife's friends or his kids' friends' parents. He's not attending tedious family functions out of obligation. He's not stuck in social patterns that bore or exhaust him. His social calendar reflects his genuine interests and preferences. This means his social time is actually enjoyable rather than obligatory, restorative rather than draining. The quality of experiences available to the never-married man exceeds what married men can access. He can travel to destinations that aren't family-friendly. He can stay in boutique hotels instead of family suites. He can eat at interesting restaurants instead of kid-friendly chains. He can attend concerts, exhibitions, events that would be impossible with family constraints. He can take weekend trips on impulse. He can extend vacations when he's enjoying himself. His experiences are richer because they're not filtered through other people's limitations and preferences. Over decades, this accumulates into a depth and breadth of life experience that married men simply cannot match. Schopenhauer argued that aesthetic experience, the contemplation of beauty and art, was one of the few genuine reprieves from the suffering of existence. The never-married man has unlimited access to aesthetic experience. He can spend entire days in museums. He can attend theater, opera, symphony, without negotiating with a partner who'd rather be doing something else. He can pursue beauty in all its forms because his time and resources are his own. This access to transcendent experience creates a richness of inner life that material wealth cannot buy. The married man rushing through a museum because the kids are bored, or skipping cultural events entirely because they don't fit family schedules, he's systematically denied access to some of the highest qualities of human experience. The intellectual life flourishes in this environment of autonomy and silence. The never-married man can maintain serious reading habits, engaging with difficult texts that require sustained concentration. He can think deeply about complex questions because his mind isn't fragmented by constant interruptions and obligations. He can pursue understanding for its own sake, rather than only for practical application. This creates a sophistication of thought and breadth of knowledge that married men rarely achieve. When he speaks, he often has more interesting things to say because he's actually thinking about substantive questions rather than just managing daily logistics. The never-married man's relationship with time itself is fundamentally different. He experiences time as abundant rather than scarce. He can waste an afternoon if he feels like it without guilt or consequence. He can invest weeks or months in projects that interest him without anyone questioning the value. He can structure his days and weeks and years according to his own rhythms and priorities. This temporal sovereignty means he actually lives his time rather than just managing it. The married man is always behind, always rushing, always trying to fit too many obligations into insufficient time. The never-married man has enough time for what matters to him because he's only serving his own priorities. The hobbies and pursuits of the never-married man often reach levels of excellence that married men admire, but cannot achieve. He has time for deliberate practice. He can afford equipment and instruction that develop real skill. He can travel to learn from masters. He can dedicate weekends and evenings to improvement without family resentment. Whether it's music, athletics, craftsmanship, art, or intellectual pursuits, he can achieve genuine mastery because he has the time and resources necessary. The married man remains perpetually intermediate at everything because he can never dedicate enough sustained attention to reach excellence. This difference in capability and accomplishment is significant but rarely discussed. Schopenhauer believed that suffering arose from unfulfilled desire and that the wise person structured life to minimize desire. The never-married man who's genuinely content with his autonomy has achieved this. He's not constantly wanting what he doesn't have. He has what he actually wants, freedom, peace, time, resources under his control. This contentment radiates from him in ways that make him attractive and magnetic. People sense that he's satisfied rather than grasping, complete rather than lacking. This psychological wholeness is rare and valuable, and it comes directly from having structured life on his own terms, rather than according to external demands. The health advantages compound over decades. The never-married man can prioritize sleep, exercise, nutrition without negotiating with family schedules or responsibilities. He can afford higher quality food, better health care, gym memberships, or personal training. He has time for preventive care and health optimization. He's not worn down by chronic stress and sleep deprivation. At 50 or 60, he typically looks and feels dramatically better than married peers the same age. This physical vitality extends his capacity to enjoy life well past the point where married men are exhausted and declining. The kingdom includes a body that still works well, because it's been maintained rather than depleted. The romantic and sexual dimension of this life deserves honest examination. The never-married man who maintains himself well has options that married men cannot access. He can date casually without deception because he's clear about his intentions. He can experience variety and novelty in romantic encounters. He can choose partners based purely on mutual attraction and compatibility rather than long-term suitability. He's never sexually frustrated because he's not dependent on one person's variable desire. He can walk away from any particular relationship without cost, which paradoxically makes him more attractive and gives him better treatment. Women who interact with him know he genuinely doesn't need them, which creates a dynamic where they invest more effort in being enjoyable company. The dignity available to the never-married man is profound. He's not performing for anyone. He's not managing anyone's perception of him. He's not adapting his personality to maintain domestic peace. He is who he is consistently, without apology or modulation based on others' reactions. This authenticity is visible and impressive. People sense that he's genuine rather than performing, that what they see is what actually exists, rather than a carefully managed presentation. This consistency and authenticity command respect in ways that the married man's constant adaptation and performance cannot. The creative capacity available in this life of silence and autonomy often produces remarkable results. The never-married man can pursue creative projects with the sustained attention they require. He can write novels that take years to complete. He can develop artistic skills through decades of practice. He can build businesses that need total commitment during early phases. History's creative achievements are disproportionately produced by unmarried men, not because marriage prevents all creativity, but because the level of focus and dedication required for exceptional creative work is structurally incompatible with family obligations. The married man trying to write after putting kids to bed is working with depleted mental energy and stolen time. The never-married man can dedicate his peak energy and optimal hours to creative work. Schopenhauer himself exemplified this, producing philosophical works of enduring significance precisely because his life was structured to support intellectual production rather than family maintenance. His daily routine was designed around his work, with social interaction and other activities carefully managed to preserve mental energy for philosophy. The never-married man pursuing any form of excellence can adopt similar structures, organizing life around what matters to him rather than constantly compromising to accommodate others' needs and schedules. This produces not just better outcomes, but a different quality of life entirely. The food experience becomes an art form rather than a chore. The never-married man can prepare exactly what he wants to eat when he wants to eat it. He can experiment with complex recipes that require time and attention. He can maintain dietary approaches that optimize his health and energy. He can eat out when he prefers without negotiating with family members who want something different. He can enjoy meals in silence when that's restorative, or with company when that's enjoyable. Food becomes genuine pleasure rather than another task on the endless list of family logistics. The difference between eating what you want versus constantly compromising on meals seems small until you multiply it across thousands of meals over decades. The environmental control extends to sound and light and temperature and every aspect of sensory experience. The never-married man's home is exactly as warm or cool as he prefers. The lighting is set to his preferences. The music or silence reflects his mood. The visual environment is curated to please him. These might seem like minor details, but they profoundly affect quality of life. The married man exists in constantly negotiated environments where the temperature is too hot or too cold. The TV is always on when he'd prefer quiet. The decorations irritate him, but his wife likes them. Death by 1,000 compromises is still death. The never married man lives in harmony with his environment instead of constant low-level irritation. The spiritual and contemplative life flourishes in silence and solitude. The never married man can meditate for hours without interruption. He can attend retreats that require extended time away. He can restructure his entire life around spiritual practice if that becomes important. He can pursue philosophical questions without constant distraction. Many wisdom traditions recognize that advanced spiritual development requires freedom from worldly entanglements. The never married man can access levels of spiritual understanding and practice that family obligations make nearly impossible. The married man approaching these questions late in life discovers that his commitments prevent serious practice. Schopenhauer studied Eastern philosophy extensively and recognized that renunciation of worldly attachments was central to achieving wisdom and peace. The never married man has renounced the attachment that most people consider fundamental, and in doing so, has created space for different and potentially deeper forms of fulfillment. He's traded conventional sources of meaning for unconventional ones, and often finds the trade highly favorable. The silence of his life isn't emptiness. It's spaciousness that allows meaning to emerge organically rather than being imposed by social expectations. The financial investments available to the never married man create compounding advantages. He can invest aggressively because he's only risking his own future. He can hold through market volatility because he doesn't need current income to support family. He can pursue asymmetric opportunities where potential gains far exceed potential losses. Over decades, this creates wealth accumulation that far exceeds what married men achieve, despite often earning more. The married man is converting income into current consumption for family needs. The never married man is converting income into assets that appreciate. By retirement age, the wealth differential is often staggering, with the never married man having multiples of what married peers accumulated. The geographic optimization available to the never married man creates both quality of life and financial advantages. He can live in low-cost areas while working remotely for high-cost area salaries. He can relocate to jurisdictions with favorable tax treatment. He can split time between different locations to optimize for weather, culture, or cost. He can explore different cities or countries until he finds optimal fit. The married man is locked into wherever his wife's family lives, or wherever the best schools are, or wherever his career happened to take him before he had family constraints. The never married man optimizes continuously, always positioning himself in whatever location serves him best at that phase of life. Schopenhauer lived in several different cities throughout his life, choosing locations based on what best supported his work and well-being at different times. He wasn't trapped by family considerations or social obligations. This geographic flexibility allowed him to find environments conducive to his philosophical production. The never married man can adopt similar strategies, treating geography as a tool for life optimization rather than a constraint he must accept. This mobility creates options that married men cannot access, opportunities that only appear to those who can move quickly when attractive situations emerge. The professional life of the never married man operates under different rules. He can take career risks that married men cannot. He can switch industries entirely if something more interesting appears. He can take sabbaticals to pursue learning or projects. He can work intensely when opportunities matter and ease back when he wants rest. He can relocate for better positions without family veto. He can negotiate aggressively because he can genuinely walk away from insufficient offers. This career flexibility typically results in better outcomes despite often involving more risk. The married man is locked into safe, steady employment to support family, even when that employment is destroying his soul. The educational and learning opportunities available to the never married man extend throughout life. He can pursue degrees or certifications at any age because he has time and resources. He can attend workshops and conferences without family conflict. He can invest in skill development continuously. He can change fields entirely by getting new training. The married man's educational development typically stops in his 20s when family obligations begin. The never married man can remain a perpetual student, constantly growing and developing capabilities. This creates increasing rather than decreasing value as he ages. The never married man's sleep quality is typically superior to married men's, and this affects everything else. He can maintain optimal sleep schedules without being woken by partners or children. He can create perfect sleeping environments with darkness, temperature, and quiet, all calibrated to his preferences. He can nap when tired without negotiation or guilt. Quality sleep affects mood, cognitive function, health, longevity, everything that matters. The married man accepts chronic sleep deprivation as normal, not recognizing how much it's degrading his entire existence. The never married man is well rested, which makes everything easier and more enjoyable. Schopenhauer maintained strict routines around sleep and daily rhythms, recognizing that physical well-being supported intellectual work. The never married man can adopt optimal routines without compromise, creating sustainable patterns that maintain health and energy. The married man's routines are constantly disrupted by family needs, preventing the consistency that creates real benefits. Over decades, this difference in sleep quality and daily routine optimization creates massive divergence in health outcomes and quality of life. The entertainment and cultural consumption of the never married man reflects his actual preferences rather than family-friendly compromises. He can watch films that interest him rather than animated movies. He can read books that challenge him rather than being too tired for anything complex. He can listen to music he enjoys rather than constant kid-friendly content. He can attend performances and events that match his cultural interests. This might seem trivial, but culture and entertainment are how we spend significant portions of our lives. Spending that time on genuinely engaging content versus family-appropriate mediocrity is the difference between rich and impoverished inner life. The silence the never married man lives in includes silence about his life quality. He's learned that discussing how well he lives creates resentment and defensiveness in married men who need to believe their choices were optimal, so he simply doesn't mention it. He doesn't post on social media about his spontaneous trips or his peaceful weekends. He doesn't talk about the latest concert, or the book he's reading or the project he's developing. He maintains privacy about his kingdom, because explaining it to people trapped in obligations they resent is pointless and creates social friction. The silence is strategic, protecting something valuable from those who would diminish it out of envy or incomprehension. The technological advantages available to the never married man create new dimensions of this silent kingdom. He can work from anywhere with good internet, no longer tied to specific locations by family needs. He can adopt new technologies and tools immediately without family resistance or need for consensus. He can structure his digital life for productivity rather than constant availability to family. He can use automation and outsourcing more effectively because he's optimizing for one person rather than coordinating for many. The digital revolution has massively increased the advantages of being unencumbered, and the never married man captures these advantages fully. The political and ideological freedom available to the never married man allows genuine intellectual exploration. He can consider ideas without filtering them through family acceptability. He can take controversial positions because he doesn't need to maintain social standing for his children's sake. He can be intellectually honest without compromising to maintain domestic peace. The married man's thinking is constrained by need to maintain certain social positions and avoid controversy that might affect his family. The never married man can pursue truth wherever it leads without such constraints. This intellectual freedom produces clearer thinking and more honest positions. Schopenhauer held many positions that were controversial in his time, particularly his pessimism about human nature and his rejection of religious orthodoxy. Being unmarried allowed him to maintain these positions without worrying about social consequences for dependence. The never married man today has similar freedom to think and speak honestly about contentious topics without endangering anyone but himself. This is increasingly valuable in times when ideological conformity is enforced through social and professional consequences. The philanthropic possibilities available to the never married man are substantial. Without family obligations consuming resources, he can direct significant wealth toward causes he genuinely cares about. He can volunteer time to organizations that matter to him. He can mentor young people in his field. He can support arts and culture and intellectual endeavors. His legacy can be impact, rather than just biological reproduction. Many of history's great philanthropists and benefactors were unmarried men who directed resources toward lasting institutions rather than temporary family consumption. The never married man can create enduring positive impact at scales that married men rarely achieve. The relationship with possessions becomes qualitatively different. The never married man can own beautiful things without worry about them being damaged by children. He can collect items that give him genuine pleasure rather than just functional family necessities. He can maintain possessions properly because he has time for care and maintenance. His home can contain art, instruments, collections, whatever brings him joy. The married man's possessions are usually functional items for family use, rarely anything beautiful or personally meaningful. The aesthetic poverty of most family homes is striking when contrasted with the curated beauty possible in the never-married man's space. The adventure and risk-taking available throughout life keeps the never-married man psychologically young. He can pursue challenging experiences at any age because he's not constrained by family responsibilities. He can learn extreme sports, travel to difficult locations, take on projects that might fail spectacularly. This willingness to embrace new challenges and risks creates continuous growth, rather than the stagnation that often characterizes married life. The married man becomes increasingly risk-averse and routine-bound. The never-married man can remain psychologically flexible and willing to attempt difficult new things indefinitely. Schopenhauer remained intellectually productive into old age, continuing to refine his philosophy and engage with new ideas. His unmarried state allowed this continued development, rather than the ossification that often comes with family routines and responsibilities. The never-married man can age without calcifying, maintaining curiosity and willingness to change throughout life. This makes old age itself qualitatively different, a continued adventure rather than just decline management. The silence extends to emotional life. The never-married man doesn't externalize his emotional processing onto others. He doesn't need someone to manage his feelings or validate his experiences. He processes emotions internally or through chosen outlets like journaling, therapy, or conversations with selected friends. This emotional self-sufficiency creates stability that dependency destroys. The married man often becomes emotionally dependent on his wife's management of his inner life. The never-married man maintains emotional sovereignty, which creates psychological resilience and genuine maturity. The compound effect of all these advantages over decades creates lives so different that comparison becomes almost meaningless. The never-married man at 60 who's lived intentionally has had a completely different experience of existence than his married peer. He's accumulated experiences, capabilities, resources, and wisdom through paths unavailable to family men. He's avoided the grinding depletion that family obligations impose. He's maintained his vitality and curiosity. He's built exactly the life he wanted, rather than accepting what circumstances and obligations imposed. The difference isn't about better or worse in some absolute sense, but about alignment between life and genuine preference. Schopenhauer's final years were spent in the home he'd created in Frankfurt, surrounded by the life he'd deliberately built, producing philosophical work until near his death. He died as he'd lived on his own terms, answerable to no one, having created exactly the existence he'd chosen. The never-married man who follows similar principles can approach death with similar satisfaction, having actually lived his one precious life rather than having spent it serving obligations he never truly chose. The silence of his kingdom includes silence about this ultimate advantage, dying knowing you actually lived. The never-married man doesn't need you to understand his choices or validate his life. He's not seeking approval or defending against criticism. He's simply living in his silent kingdom, enjoying advantages that most people cannot recognize because they've never experienced them. The married man who questions these choices often does so defensively, needing to believe his own path was optimal. The never-married man has no such need. He knows what his life contains because he lives it daily. The silence protects something precious from those who would diminish it out of envy or incomprehension. Everything I've described exists right now for men who choose this path consciously and build it well. This isn't theoretical or aspirational. This is how unmarried men who understand what they're doing actually live. The kingdom exists in silence because broadcasting it creates problems without benefits. But knowing it exists, understanding how it works, recognizing what's possible when you structure life around genuine preference rather than social expectation, that knowledge is valuable for any man making decisions about his path forward. You've stayed through this entire exploration of a life most people never see. That tells me you're someone who values truth over comfortable illusions. Drop a comment right now saying, "I see the kingdom." 4 simple words that acknowledge what we've discussed, that demonstrate you understand there are ways of living that mainstream narratives never reveal. Your comment builds community among men who think independently about life structure, rather than just accepting default paths. This matters because every voice that speaks truth makes it easier for others to question the narratives they've been sold. Subscribe and hit that like button, because this channel reveals realities that conventional wisdom desperately wants to keep hidden. Every subscription signals demand for honest analysis of how life actually works, versus how we're told it should work. You're not just supporting content creation. You're supporting a space where uncomfortable truths can be examined without apology, where alternative paths can be explored without judgment, where men can discover that the life they've been told they should want might not be the life that would actually serve them best. The next video takes everything we've discussed and shows you the darker side that nobody wants to acknowledge. There are costs to conventional choices that go far beyond what we've examined here. Costs so severe that once you see them clearly, you'll never look at typical life paths the same way. The information I'm about to share explains patterns you've observed but couldn't quite understand, reveals mechanisms that operate constantly but remain invisible to most people. Make absolutely certain you're subscribed, because what comes next completes the picture in ways that will fundamentally alter your understanding of the choices most people make and the consequences they face.